Hey guys, welcome back to Learning 3D. This is episode number 3 today, and we're going to be talking about rainbows and TikToks. Pretty much the same maneuver, just a little bit different. The rainbow is just, I guess you could say, a larger or a bigger version of a TikTok, where the helicopter's traveling through the maneuver more, whereas the TikTok is just a more violent, more stationary, I guess, version of a rainbow, I guess you could say. So we're going to talk about those. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to teach yourself how to do these in the quickest and easiest way. You'll see as we start doing this how there's a lot of things, a lot of common mistakes that people make when doing these maneuvers, especially the TikTok. And I'm going to talk about that, and hopefully this will teach you again how to learn these maneuvers pretty quickly. There's a lot of variations of a TikTok and a rainbow. There's a nose down TikTok, a tail down TikTok, sideways TikTok. You can do them with the disc towards you. You can do them with the disc away from you. In other words, this gets towards you. We're not going to get into that. We're going to talk about those in a more advanced episode, but for right now we're just going to focus on the essentials of how to learn the rainbows and the TikToks. And I have my T-Rex 550 here, as well as flybarless, as well as my T-Rex 700 old-fashioned here nitro flybar, and we're going to use these to teach you how to do this. And again, please remember, a lot of these maneuvers are sort of dependent on the basics and the foundations that we've talked about in the previous 2 episodes. So let's go ahead and get it done. Alright, I'm going to talk to you guys about rainbows first, and I have my T-Rex 550 here, flybarless, so let's get going. So I always recommend that you learn rainbows before you learn TikToks. The reason for that is because rainbows are easier to do. You actually fly the helicopter through the maneuver on rainbows, whereas you don't fly it on TikToks. So if you're comfortable with inverted flying, first thing you do, you flip the helicopter upside down, point it towards you, make a little correction, it's a windy day, and then you're going to feet negative and forward elevator and push it away from you. And then you stop, stabilize it into a hover, and then you feet positive and back elevator and bring it back this way. Fighting the wind right now. Stabilize it again into a hover, again, negative and forward elevator. One more time, stabilize it, positive and back elevator, again into a hover upside down. And then once you get comfortable with that motion, then you just start doing it with less interruptions. So if you remember the basics, tail in hovering, of course, absolutely no doubt that you know how to do that. Nose in hovering, absolutely no doubt you can do that. So you need those 2 basics mastered to be able to do this. So again, invert it, nose in, facing you, you apply negative and forward elevator, and then your tail in, and then positive, back elevator, and then your inverted, nose in again. Then you just simply keep doing it. Negative, forward elevator, positive, back elevator. And that's a rainbow. Of course, the more comfortable you get, the more violent you can make it look. Now, you can practice this in other orientations as well. For example, the famous rainbow that I do all the time, most of us do. I believe you've seen this in episode number 2, Sport Pilot to 3D Maniac. Same deal, we're changing the orientation here. So I'm going to be upside down here, and it's kind of tail in if you think about it. And then negative forward elevator to right side up on my left side, almost kind of tail in right there too. So positive back elevator to here, stop, stabilize the helicopter, negative forward elevator to here, stop, stabilize the helicopter. And as you get comfortable doing these, you can make these stops quicker and eventually you don't have to flatten it out anymore on the stop. So when you get here, you punch it. As you can see, I'm feeding a lot of positive here and then coming off of it to make it stop. Here, a lot of negative, come off of it to make it stop. Make it stop. So that's how you can make it look really, really violent. And again, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, the more violent you can make it look. To the point where you can just hammer the stick and just do it on the deck. Again, this orientation you have to have mastered right here. And of course, this orientation you have to have mastered as well. The bigger you make the rainbow, the easier it is, because you have more time to correct throughout the rainbow. So if I make it really big, I can correct here on my elevator, and my aileron, and my tail. Same here, I'm making it real big. I have plenty of time to correct. The smaller I make it, the more I have to be on top of my game, because I have very little time to make corrections here. And then of course you can make them in any kind of direction. I mean, you can go that way, you can go that way, you can go towards you. Let's see here, let's do one towards us. So pointing towards the camera there, go back. Back towards the camera again. So that's it for rainbows, and we're going to go ahead and fire up my nitro now, and we're going to go over Tocks. This is going to be really, really cool. All right, now we're going to fly my T-Rex 700 nitro. Figured nitro's better to teach you Tocks because it requires more collective management than with an electric. And also flybar, same deal here, requires more collective management. So before I start Tocks, one thing that a lot of people don't realize, I'm going to keep it a little bit high right there for Ernie, my friend here, to shoot the video. A lot of people don't realize that Tocks, it's basically a combination of cyclic and collective. And a lot of people don't also realize that cyclic creates lift, meaning you need very little collective when you do Tocks. So as I was teaching you before with the rainbows, you're going to be tail in, okay, right in front of you. You're going to apply positive, and you're going to give it back elevator, and you're going to put it upside down, nose in front of you, like this. Same stuff we did before, but we're going to do it with a lot more collective this time. More cyclic correction, more elevator and less collective. So negative and forward, stabilize it, positive and back, stabilize it. Basically a rainbow, but a pretty tight one here. Once you get really comfortable with these orientations, you're going to start doing the same. You're just going to start lessening your angle. You're not going to flatten it on the positive and the negative side. You're going to leave it at an angle. Now watch when I start doing the actual Tok, how I'm using very little collective, very little left right here, and a lot of this. This is creating lift for me. I see a lot of people do it backwards, and that's why they're having a lot of trouble doing them. So watch this, here we go. I'm going to lead it with cyclic, so elevator, and I'm going to follow it with collective. I'm only using enough collective to keep it in the air. As you can see on the sticks here, I'm using full back, full forward, back, forward. And I'm only using enough collective to keep the helicopter in the air. Now as you watch this in the editing room, I'm going to go ahead and slow it down and put it in slow motion so you can see it better. So that's what a Tok looks like. Again, very little collective and a lot of cyclic. This is what I see most people do. I'm going to do it the wrong way now. I'm going to use more collective than I need and less cyclic. I see a lot of people do this. As you can see, I'm like killing the motor. It's less efficient. Instead, like I said before, use this stick. Don't be afraid to use a lot of cyclic. Cyclic, and just enough collective to keep it in one spot. Fighting a little bit of wind again right now, so I'm angling it so it doesn't drift on me. Same deal with the sideways Tocks. Exact same deal. Difference is, of course, your orientation is totally different when you're looking at the side of the helicopter. But as I showed you before with the 550, same deal. If you master this orientation sideways, you can do it sideways. It looks really cool when you can do it down on the deck. So again, watch my thumbs. I'm going to use a lot of cyclic, very little collective. Full cyclic, forward, back, forward. If I don't manage the collective and the cyclic as well, then what? I'm actually climbing now. So don't do this where you bury the collective. See, my motor is dying. Instead, use the cyclic to give you lift. The cyclic gives you lift. In the same way the collective does. It just does it towards one side of the disc and not throughout the whole disc. So once you've mastered this, there's a few tricks I'm going to show you. As you can see, my motor is really rich, brand new motor. When you point the tail in one direction, your helicopter is going to drift in that direction regardless of your collective, your cyclic input. So if I start going back forward like I was doing before, like this, I'm going to get a little higher. If I move the tail to the right, and I'm still going back forward, I'm not changing the direction of the cyclic, just the tail. It moves right. If I move the tail left, it moves left. Right again, as you can see, it's going to move right. So anywhere your tail points, your helicopter is going to move in that direction. Now for sideways Tocks, same deal. Nothing changes here. You might want to get comfortable again with some orientations, like for example this orientation right here and this orientation right here. If I want to do it to that side, same deal. Watch, I'm going to use a lot of cyclic and very little collective. You can see I'm pegging the right stick. Pull back, pull forward. Very little collective just to keep it airborne so it doesn't descend on me. Now once you've mastered these, there's a lot of tricks you can do. As I showed you before, moving the tail changes the direction. So even sideways, if I give it left tail where I drop the tail, it's going to go left. If I give it right cyclic where it races the tail, drops the nose, it's going to go right. So once you learn that, you can do a lot of cool tricks. And I'm going to get into more detail on those on a future episode. But as you can see, you can travel that way, and you can do nose down, you can do right. There's a lot of things you can do with Tocks. And of course, we're going to address all those in a future episode. But for now, I hope these tricks and tips help in mastering your Tocks. Again, please remember to use a lot of cyclic. Cyclic is your friend. Cyclic creates a lot of lift. And just only use the collective here to maintain the helicopter in the air. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Learning 3D, and I hope these tips were useful in teaching you how to do these rainbows and Tocks. Again, there's a lot of different variations. We're going to get to those later, but at least this will give you enough to start practicing those. And again, remember, cyclic is your friend. Do not overpitch the helicopter by using a lot of collective. Just try to create the lift with the cyclic and just use enough collective to keep the helicopter in the air. So again, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in number 4, which we will be talking about pyro flips.